Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Embracing What is Real. I'm your host, Helane Lipson. Embracing What's Real is the forum to explore the nature of reality and the impact our current belief systems have on our lives. All of our deep-rooted old beliefs are what many of us use to judge ourselves and our actions. Our current belief systems impact every single choice we make. So when we feed our spirit with new, empowering ideas about the meaning of life, the meaning of our lives change. Hello. You are listening to N5D Radio. Welcome to Embracing What's Real. I'm your host, Helane Lipson, and it's another beautiful, sunny day here in South Florida. And I want to take this time to remind you all that the Return to Atlantis conference held in Lido Key, Florida, is less than 2 months away. Return to Atlantis will take place October 4th through October 6th, and we have 6 amazing presenters: Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, Lisa Renee, Dr. Dream, Andrew Bartzis, Tom Lesher, and Teal Scott. And the Return to Atlantis conference will take place on the 99% quartz crystal beaches of Lido Keys Holiday Inn, and will also include a cosmic reunion beach party with tasty organic food catered by Earth Origins. For more information, visit our website at www.in5devents.com. Now, we have an amazing program this evening. Bibi McGill is our special guest, and for those of you not familiar with Bibi, she's an internationally known musician. She got her big break in 2001 playing with Pink and has been the lead guitar player for Beyonce since 2006. She's also an acclaimed yoga teacher, wellness educator, and health food entrepreneur. Since discovering yoga in 1998, Bibi has traveled around the world extensively, studying numerous classical 8 limb yoga systems, including Ashtanga and Kundalini Yoga. Bibi's yoga practice is a practice that challenges the body while supporting spiritual growth within each and every student. An advocate of making yoga available to everyone, Bibi is actively involved with Street Yoga, a nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading healing and wellness to the youth population. While not teaching yoga, Bibi enjoys organic gardening, kayaking, sustainable living, and crafting new recipes of Bibi Kale Chips to satisfy the palates of health-minded snackers. I am so excited to welcome Bibi McGill. Hello, Bibi.
Hi, how are you, Helane?
I am so glad to be speaking to you. I am so glad to be speaking to you. It's so amazing here, you know. I had like a burst of stage fright. Imagine me coming on this little show and I'm having a burst of stage fright. I'm thinking about like somebody like you getting up in front of so many people and performing with Beyonce. It's amazing. Do you ever get stage fright coming on, like the way I was even stuttering as I was opening? I was like, wow.
I really don't get stage fright. I don't think I ever have.
Wow.
It's kind of normal for me. Sometimes I might get a little bit nervous before my solo. Like, she features me quite a lot in the show where I come down off my platform and I go front stage center with her. I get a little nervous before my solo because I don't want to mess up. But generally, I'm usually really excited to go out on stage.
Well, it's interesting. Like, now that you're on with me, I'm just back to relaxing. You have, like, just such a nice energy about you. And I am so happy you're a guest here on Embracing What is Real. You know, it's so exciting to have you on. And I'd like to start. I just want to give a shout-out to Faith Spina of Bridge to Lemuria for connecting us. You know, what a beacon of light she is. So I have a lot of gratitude there.
Oh, I love Faith. You know. She's great.
I know. Well, I guess a good place to start would be talking about your music career. Now, I read in O Magazine that you picked up a guitar at age 12, and that's where it all began for you. So I'd love you to tell me a little bit about what happened and how it all started, and a little bit about what took you from your beginning to where you are today.
Well, like you said, I started playing guitar at 12. My parents were always, my parents and my older brother and sister were always so supportive of me, and I don't think I would have kept doing it if they hadn't just constantly supported me and encouraged me to do it, because it's what I wanted to do. So I started playing at 12. I took lessons. I played guitar in every single band, the marching band, the concert band, the jazz band. I had my own, punk rock band when I was probably about 16 or 17. And then I got, I went to college. I studied music for 4.5 years, got my degree in music scoring and arranging, bachelor's degree. And from there, I moved to California where, wow, I just worked so hard. It's kind of a struggle for a young woman who's single to go to California and just make it in the industry. I don't even know where to start when I think about what I went through for so many years. I finally got my break in 2001 when Pink selected me to be her guitar player, and that's really what jump-started my career. With Pink, I was immediately on TV, on the Grammys, on Saturday Night Live, Jay Leno. I was on MTV, TRL. I was on every TV program that was hot at the time, and from there everybody saw me and started requesting me. So that kind of led me to a place where I actually was sick of the music industry, and I put down my guitar, and I said I wasn't going to go back and play guitar ever again because I was tired of, dealing with the struggle of the music industry, the arrogance, the gosh, how do I describe it? It's just really hard, always chasing my checks. The music industry was a lot different than what I was like, and I had been studying yoga for quite a long time, and I decided I was going to not play music and teach yoga. So that's what I started doing. I started teaching yoga, and it was one of the most fulfilling times of my life to be able to go in and help people help themselves by teaching them a practice that brought balance and lightness and awareness to their body and brought them peace. And I did that for about 8 months, and then Beyonce, decided that she wanted to have an all-female band, so she did a worldwide press release announcing that she's looking for an all-female band, and she had auditions in the 4 major cities of the U.S., Los Angeles, I believe Houston, Texas, Atlanta, and New York. So the day she did her worldwide press release making this announcement, my phone was blowing up, my email was blowing up, my pager was blowing up. Everybody was calling me saying, Bibi, Beyonce's having auditions, you have to go. And I said to everyone, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go back on the road. I'm not playing guitar anymore. I'm not going to be in bands. I'm teaching yoga, and I'm happy. So I don't want to hear about it. And by the end of the day, I was going to sleep, getting ready for bed, and my dad calls, and he's in Denver, and he's a barber, and he doesn't know anything about Beyonce. He didn't even know how to pronounce her name. He called me. He's like, there's somebody from a Beyond or Beyonce. They're looking for you. They called here looking for you because she's looking for a guitar player, and they thought it'd be a good opportunity for you. And I was, like, Dad, no, I'm teaching yoga, and I'm not interested. Thanks anyway. And when I hung up the phone from talking with him, I thought about it. I'm like, how sweet, my dad called to tell me about a Beyonce audition. So I decided to go to the audition strictly just because my dad called and asked me about it.
Oh.
So I went to I went to the audition regretfully because I had to cancel a yoga class that I was teaching to go to this audition. I went to the audition, got out of my car, and there was like girls were lined up around the block at 10 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning, I mean. And when I got out of the car and started walking towards, where all these girls were lined up, I was like, something clicked, and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. And from that point on, I felt that I was going to get the audition and I was going to land the job, and sure enough, I did. I just felt it. I just felt that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And so that was 2006, and I've been with Beyonce ever since.
Wow, so it's been 7 years already. And you're the music director also that's amazing.
Well, I was the musical director for the first 6 years, and this last year, actually as of recently, which is such a relief for me, because that was really a lot of responsibility. They hired a brand new creative and music director to come in that was different from the one that I was working with before, and he chose to work with the drummer. So the drummer who played with Prince, she was a musical director for about 6 months, and then she decided to step down because it was a lot for her, and I can understand why. It was something I put up with for 6 years, a responsibility, and after 6 months, she just decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So we manage ourselves, which is really nice.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
That is really nice.
Yeah.
Is that unusual in the music industry that you're left to manage yourself?
It is very unusual. There's usually a band leader, but because she didn't want to do it and I was tired of doing it, and I think they've also seen a different side of me. They've seen a side of me that is free. Like, I'm free to enjoy myself and not have the responsibility of making sure people play the right notes, making sure people show up to lobby calls on time, making sure the sound checks and rehearsals are run properly. They've seen Bibi, finally light up and not have the burden of having that responsibility. So, it is what it is. They know that's something that I don't want to come back to. And it's been a blessing this last tour, not having that responsibility.
So the tour is over now. I know Beyonce had a baby, right, in 2012, right? So there was probably some time off, right?
Yeah.
And then you came back?
Yes. She took some time off, and we actually weren't expected to come back as soon. I mean, she had her baby in February of 2012, and in May 2012, I was called back to do a show, just a run of shows, a streak of 3 or 4 shows in Atlanta, and then we weren't expected to tour anymore, and I got a call that same year, at the end of last year, in December, that, to do the Super Bowl and another tour. So actually the tour is not over. The tour just started in April, and I have completed the European leg of the tour, the U.S. leg of the tour. I have a very short break, and I'm going to go back out in September for the South American leg of the tour. After that, we're going to do another round of the U.S., and we'll have a little break, and then we're going to start all over next year. So this tour has been a lot more involved, a lot more dates, and a lot fewer breaks than any of the tours that I've done with Beyonce. This is my 4th tour with her in 7 years. So, yeah. She has a baby.
It must have been unbelievable doing the Super Bowl. Hello. Oh, my goodness. What was that like? Oh, my God. I just thinking about that.
Honestly, it was just, it took us 3 weeks of rehearsals to prepare for the Super Bowl. That's how big of a deal it was. 3 weeks for 12 minutes. And as if my career couldn't go any further, I mean, I thought, I'm with Beyonce. She's an icon, and my career is, I've pretty much gone as far as I can go. And then I did the Super Bowl, and it just exploded through the roof. I didn't think it could go any further, but that even took me to a whole nother level. So I don't think my phone has stopped ringing about the Super Bowl. There's so many people and so many opportunities. So many things have come from me doing the Super Bowl. So, once again, grateful for that opportunity.
It's like everything that you do to the extreme. Talk about, to the extreme, like we were saying with the Super Bowl, but here, with the yoga. Also, you don't just practice yoga a little bit. You started, you went to a special, you studied yoga all over the world, and weren't you in a special program, I think, in 2004, I read?
Yeah.
There was some kind of special training.
Yeah, I decided, while I was on tour with a different band, I decided that I wanted I'd always wanted to deepen my practice and go through a teacher's training, not necessarily at the time to be a teacher, but because I wanted to understand about what it was like to be a yogi and to study Sanskrit and to have a deeper understanding of meditation. So the only way I could do that without having to be grounded in one city for at least a year was I did this. What was it? It was I studied in Thailand, and I did 5 months of pre-course studies where, I had to document every time, when I woke up in the morning, when I had all my meals. I had to practice 6 days a week. I had a lot of books to read, and I had essays to write while I was on tour. And then the last month, the final 5 months of pre-course studies, and then the last month, I went to Thailand where I studied intensely with a teacher and 28 people that were chosen from all over the world to be a part of this teacher's training. And we would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and practice yoga. We would go to sleep at 8:30 at night. And throughout the day, we studied breath, pranayama. We studied anatomy. We studied diet and nutrition. We studied Sanskrit. We studied meditation. We studied the chakra system. So it was a really intense period of study, and I came out of there once again, with my life changed. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't until a year after that I decided I was ready to teach and to share, my own practice with other people.
And now it's big. Your yoga practice. You teach all over, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate enough to be able to share my yoga practice with different people on tour. Different people within our touring group, the band, the dancers. I've taught here in Portland during my off time when I'm not touring. I taught a yoga retreat in Kauai last year, a number of different festivals, and I'm actually teaching another yoga retreat in Bali in the fall of 2014. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's another one of my passions. It's, besides playing guitar, I actually really enjoy sharing a practice that has helped me just remain grounded in this world, especially with my life touring on the road. Things can get really hectic and stressful and difficult and challenging, and the only thing that helps me is yoga. When I'm not practicing yoga, I'm not feeling great, So it's definitely something that I incorporate into my life on and off the road.
You're an extremely passionate person. I saw this picture on your Facebook wall. It just reminded me. You had a bicycle. You were driving a bicycle around in practices. Is that what you were doing? Do you remember posting something with a bicycle and you were driving it? It was like backstage and riding a bike. Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, well, I decided, I got a fold-up bicycle. It fits into my guitar trunk that carries all my guitars, and, my guitar tech handles it. And I take it out, and it's been all over the world with me, So now, in addition, I get to experience the tour in a different way. It's so wonderful to be able to go, to a different country and pull out your bicycle and ride it ride my bike. I rode my bike from Bratislava, Slovakia, into Austria, like 30 miles. It was incredible.
Wow.
So,
well, you're probably in amazing shape. I mean, between the yoga and, I mean, it takes a lot of stamina to do these shows night after night, doesn't it? I mean, a lot. Were you exhausted when you first started?
What's that?
Were you exhausted when you first started? I mean, I imagine it's like building up a muscle. You start jogging or running, you can run about 3 miles. The next thing you know, you could run about 26. I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, you had to get into better and better shape, or were you already in that kind of shape when you started in touring with Pink back in 2001?
Well, I think by the time I got to Beyonce in 2006, I was definitely in better shape because I was practicing a lot more yoga. And it's really the yoga that kept me going. Like, the first tours, people were like, how come you're always so happy? And how come you always have so much energy? I'm like, well, I take care of myself. I do yoga. I eat, the best kind of food that I possibly can when I'm on the road, I'm going to Whole Foods and, I'm not eating junk on the road. So I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing my yoga practice, and that just keeps my energy up. But even as much yoga as I do and as much as I take care of myself, the road is extremely demanding. So it's always a bit of a challenge and I have to take breaks, when I'm not on tour, I'm laying low. I'm either in Kauai or I'm at my house working in my garden, and I don't really see people. I don't want to talk to people. I want to just be alone, because it takes a lot of energy to be around people and to have them asking me questions about tour, and I just need to ground down and shut the world out and get back to nature. So I've definitely learned how to take care of myself.
Well, that makes sense. When did this last tour end, by the way? How long have you been done?
Well, I actually just got back from London. We had a show in London 2 days ago. So I've only been home for a couple of days. Yeah, I've only been home for a couple of days. I'm leaving tomorrow for Kauai. I'll be there for 6 days. And then I have to fly to Philadelphia and do a show. I have a few days off, and then I fly to South America for about 3 weeks to play all over Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
That was so cool. You're going to Kauai. I'm going to Kauai, too. I love that. So that's really cool.
Oh, that's right. Cool.
That's a great synchronicity, too. I'm going for the first time. I might just miss you, though. I'm not going to get there until Sunday night. But I'm staying all the way until September 8th. So, I mean, that's exciting, though. It's my first time there. Obviously, you love Kauai because I saw your video with Lilu in Kauai. So is that like your little home away from home?
Yeah, it's definitely my home away from home. It is one of my favorite places. It's just the energy there is pretty magical. The lushness of the land and the mountains and the energy, it's just incredible. Yeah, it's one of the places besides Portland that I'm able to ground down and really get connected.
I love that. And the veils, first of all, this is going to be my first time to Kauai, but it makes sense how somebody like you would go there. I mean, I was talking to you earlier, and I was saying, you're actually channeling pure source energy. Love, light, joy is flowing through you, and it's coming out your hands as you're playing the guitar, or it is just coming through you as you're doing your yoga practice and leading people into their or helping them learn and grow and move into their own spiritual practice. And the love, light, joy is even flowed through you in when you were processing food. And because I haven't even touched upon the kale chips yet. But basically, that's an amazing thing. You've been eating raw, healthy foods, and basically you created a recipe for kale chips and processed it, and immediately, first of all, Bibi Kale Chips are everywhere. Those are your chips.
Yeah, those are my chips.
Isn't that amazing? And so there was definitely, like I say, I'm touched by the fact I know that you are so divinely guided, and that is says something about your intent and what you're trying to do for the good of all involved, and the impact that you're making. What was it like making I know I'm jumping around. But what is it like? What was it like making the kale chips and seeing that take off? Just yet another one of these passions that came into fruition and grew beyond your wildest dreams. What was that like?
Wow, I really don't know how I do it. I definitely have guides and helpers and angels and all that, looking over me and directing me, because when I moved to Portland, I wanted a garden. So my first season I had an amazing lush garden with amazing vegetables, and I had kale. And it was at the end of the season, I had a lot of kale left. I didn't want to waste it. So this was many years ago. Kale chips weren't really that big of an item, 7 years ago. But actually it was 3 years ago. I decided, I don't want to waste the kale. I think people make kale chips. Let me go online and try to figure out how to make them. So I looked at all the recipes and thought, that was boring. So I scrapped everyone else's recipes and just kind of made my own. And I put everything in it that I love, because I thought I was going to be the only one eating them. I put a lot of garlic. I love garlic. I put a lot of salt. I put a lot of hot, spicy cayenne pepper and red crushed pepper. So I put these kale chips in the dehydrator, and 12 hours later, I take my first bite, and my mouth just dropped open because they were so delicious, I couldn't even believe I made them. So I started sharing with my friends, and they had the same reaction. Their mouth was like, oh, my God, how did you do this? It tastes so good, and it's healthy. I can't believe it. People were just asking me for my kale chips, so I thought, I think I'll just put them on the market. This was in November. I said I would put them on the market, get them on the shelves of stores by January 1st. So from the end of November and December, I'd gotten my food processor's license. I found a commercial kitchen to rent. I had someone design my logo. I picked my packaging, and in 6 weeks they were on the shelves at stores here in Portland, and people just have loved them since the beginning. So that was 3 years ago, and now I'm at a point where I actually have an opportunity to have someone has offered me to license them to manufacture my product and to do worldwide distribution. So for the last, I guess, maybe couple of months, I've been doing upscale batch testing and creating some new recipes for the launch in 2014. So that's a pretty big deal. It's a very rare thing for someone to come along and say, hey, we want to distribute your product, and we don't want to take a percentage of your company. Usually, a small company like this needs to have investors invest a lot of money to get their company off the ground. And when someone invests in your company, you usually have to give them 50%, if not more, of your company. I get to maintain 100% of my company and have someone else do all the distribution, all the sales and marketing, all the manufacturing, and I don't have to pay for the overhead. So I consider it a miracle, nothing less from a miracle, what has basically been handed to me. And people have told me, you're not going to be able to, you're in an industry you don't know anything about. You're not going to be able to be successful making kale chips and getting them out to people. You're going to lose money, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. Another thing to be very grateful for.
The thing with you is, you're a very courageous person. I think that's why you're such an inspiration to so many people, Bibi, because you're courageous and you've taken so many leaps of faith over fear, and it's amazing. So I'm just curious, what are some of your plans for the future? Like, what would you now like to manifest over the next few years?
Honestly, I'm working on manifesting a lot more peace and relaxation, because since I was really young, I've just been very ambitious and passionate and in pursuing the things that are important to me, and I want to relax. I want to retire very soon from the road and be able to travel and teach yoga. You know, I love teaching yoga, and I'm probably not going to make the same amount of money teaching yoga as I do playing with Beyonce, but I would like to be able to share more yoga with people. I'd like to study deeper. I want to go back to India and study yoga. I just really want to have a permanent vacation, because I feel like I've worked a lot, and I want to take it easy and simplify my life more and get back to nature and, you know, live on a farm or live in a yurt or a teepee somewhere. I mean, I don't really know specifically, but I know that I definitely want to slow it down quite a bit.
Yeah. So what is when I was introducing you, I had mentioned Street Yoga, a nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading healing and wellness to youth populations. Are you still doing that, or are you still involved with Street Yoga?
When I'm not on tour, I definitely am able to get involved in a lot of things that I'm not able to do when I'm touring, just because there's no time, and I'm rarely at my home. But yeah, when I'm not touring and when the tour is over and I have an extensive break, I get back involved with street yoga and teach at alternative high schools for what's called underserviced youth. So there are a lot of youth that are dealing with, you know, homelessness, sometimes drug addiction, sometimes, you know, mental and emotional illnesses. You know, it's been a really wonderful outreach for them, and has been something that they've been able to incorporate into their life, and they're really grateful for it, you know. And so, yeah, I look forward to doing more of that when this tour is over next year.
Yeah. So then you'll have a little bit more time. I mean, I'm just curious about one more thing about the music industry. I can't help but wonder, what do the people in the music industry think of your spiritual practice? Like, are you rubbing off on the people? I mean, the music industry is pretty tightly wound. I mean, are you rubbing off? How have you? I'm sure you've had to have impacted the people you're working with.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, because when I first started with Beyonce in 2006, even the girls in my group would describe me as, oh, wow, Bibi's from another planet. They, you know, I've never tried to force any of my beliefs on anyone. I just do what I do, and if you're interested in it, I'm happy to share, and if you're not, I'm going to leave you alone. But they definitely were not interested in anything that I was really doing. They weren't interested in yoga. They, you know, thought I was a little bit different, a little bit weird. And now I have to say, you know, I've been asked by people in upper management to share my yoga practice with them, with the group. People are interested in essential oils and crystals. I have girls coming to me saying, what kind of crystal do I use for this? You know, I need help with certain issues or things, and I have like 2 or 3 girls who went out and bought a bunch of crystals to take with them on the road. Every time someone gets a little bit sick or has a headache or has any other type of issue, they're coming to me about my essential oils, because I use 100% therapeutic grade essential oils, which can be used for a number of different ailments and conditions, and emotional, mental, and physical. So I think maybe I am rubbing off on them. Not only that, I have to say this. I am doing this Native American invocation on stage, and I wish I could show it to you, because it's something I do visually with my hands. And, you know, I was at the front of the stage waiting, to do my solo, and the lights are dark and the music is kind of eerie, and there's fog everywhere. And it's right before I conjure Beyonce up from underneath the stage. She comes up from underneath the stage in this cloud of fog and appears. And I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of bored waiting, so I'm like, oh, I'll do this Native American invocation. So basically with my hands, I make the fire sign, and then I make the earth sign, and then I make an infinity sign. And basically the invocation is, I am Bibi McGill. I call on Father Sky to come down and join Mother Earth for the benefit of the children of light. And I do this invocation at the front of the stage every night, and the band has started to do it behind me, and the audience is starting to do it. And I thought the first time I did it, I thought, oh my God, why did I just do that? I'm going to get pulled aside after the show tonight and told not to do that on stage. And to my surprise, people were like, what? I don't know what that was you did, but that was powerful. People felt it. People felt the energy of what I did. And so, yeah, I would have to say I'm probably rubbing off a little bit on people.
Yeah. Oh, my God, that is so cool.
It's really cool.
We have some questions from folks in the chat room here. So I wanted to ask, our friend Donna asks, how do you conquer your fear? And I don't even know if it's just fear of performance. I mean, how do you deal? We were talking about having faith over fear and taking these leaps of faith. How do you conquer your fear?
You know what? I can't put it any other way. It's kind of simple. I know that there are things that I'm afraid of, but you just have to do it anyway. You just have to jump. And my thing is, jump and grow wings on the way down. You just have to do it.
I saw this picture of you holding a snake, okay, again, on your Facebook page. Were you afraid of snakes at one time? And then you just
my God,
mustered up the courage? What was that? What was that with the snake?
Horrible, 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 incredibly debilitating phobia of snakes since I can remember, to the point where if I saw a picture of a snake, I would start trembling. Oh, my God, horrible. If I walked into a house where somebody had a snake in a tank, I would start trembling and crying. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. There's a lot of people in our community have snakes. And I ended up going to people's homes, and someone would walk in with a snake, and I'd freak out. And I just decided that I wasn't willing to be afraid of snakes anymore. So I asked a couple of my friends that had snakes if they would help me. And they were very gentle with me, and it took 2 years. It took 2 years. I could not be anywhere near a snake, and I started off by just petting it, just touching it and petting it. I bought a bracelet, a snake spine bracelet that had crystals on it. And, just for me to get that out of the box it took me an hour. I was afraid of the box. But finally I started wearing the snake spine bracelet periodically. And then finally I showed up at a music festival, Sacred Art and Music Festival, and another one of these friends showed up with her snake. And she had been helping me over the past year and a half, kind of deal with my fear of it. And finally I just said, you know what? I'm ready to not just pet the snake, but hold it. So I went over to her, and she was very gentle, and I had like 5 goddess sisters around me that were totally like sending me good energy and being very gentle with me and were holding space for me. And I started out by petting the snake from behind, and then she's like, she turned it around, and I said, can I pet its head? And I pet its head. And I said, okay, can I hold it? So she gave it to me, and I held it, and it was the most gentle snake ever. The snake actually looked a little bit like my dog, but I look back at that still, and I look at that picture of me holding a huge 6-foot python that's probably about 4 inches thick, And I could not believe that I was doing that. And that was a major, major fear of mine, and I just had to decide that it was something I was willing to face.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That's really incredible, actually, because I mean, isn't this the meaning of life or what it's all about? I mean, I think, and I was saying this to you too, you know, what we are striving to be is joy, light, love, or at peace and be happy, and recognize we're at one with everything. And there are these little packets of enslaved energies, or these little fears or shadows that reside within us. And the more these things come up, and we're urged to take a look at them and process them, and then love them, accept them, love them, and release them. And you literally walk through that process exactly that way when you describe the snake thing. So that was pretty incredible story. I mean, and probably that goes for everything, the snake and probably everything. But that was just probably just an example of how that, you know, how that goes. You know, I saw you on I saw your interview with Lilu in Kauai, which was great. But I think that was at the end of last year, right? Is that when you did that? December?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was exactly. It was. It was a great. December.
Yeah, it was a great interview. It was great because people got a chance to see you face to face. Your hair was awesome. You're wearing really cool clothes. You know, you talked a little bit about your tattoos, and people got to see you. And you know, you opened up, and at that point, you described us as multi-dimensional beings, and you were saying that now is the time to rise up. You know, I would love to talk a little bit more about what you meant by that. I think that you were talking about ascension and people collectively ascending, and that and general growth and change. So I'd love to hear your opinion of what is going on right now for humankind. And even elaborate on the multidimensional stuff for our listeners, if you can.
Yeah, I think it's really time for people to start realizing our interconnectedness. Number one, that we're not separate. We're not separate from each other. We're not separate from the earth. We're not separate from the sky, the sun, the trees, the animals. We're all one, just like, you know, waves of the ocean are still the ocean. That's the first thing. And by multidimensional, we're creators. Like, we have the ability to create the life that we desire. We have the ability, and something that I'm realizing because I'm doing it, I'm starting to create and manifest my dreams and desires, like, in real time. The whole flow process seems to be speeding up to the point where I've, like, thought about something that I wanted to do one night before going to bed, and when I wake up, it's practically manifested. Like, I'll get a call or something will happen. I just see things speeding up, and I just think that we're really starting to get a lot more light. The earth is starting to receive a lot more light, and we're just starting to raise our consciousness, you know, become aware of a lot more things that maybe were hidden or in the dark with us. I'm just doing these things with my own life. I mean, I'm seeing the music industry change, you know, right in front of my eyes. You know, there's definitely cool. something going on.
Yeah. I think there is a lot more light, just like you were just saying. But I think things manifest, or the speed with which things manifest is directly proportional to the amount of light that we let flow through us without kind of pinching it off or stopping it or kind of going into ego or going into fear. It's like if we're going to let it in and we're going to actually, I kind of have that faith over fear and just say, yes, the universe is providing for me and taking care of me. And no, I'm not trying to manipulate my circumstances, which is the example of pinching it off. When things are created extremely fast, when you're really channeling the light and it's getting faster and faster. I couldn't agree more. I think that some people that are pinching it off are having a harder time, but for the most part, I've been feeling like people are waking up in droves.
Yes.
That's my thought. And I feel like also somebody like you is a bridge to both worlds. You're actually bringing the light into the music industry. And, of course, it's, with somebody like you there, and you are a beacon of light, it could only impact the people around you. It could only, in ways that maybe you don't even know yet, or that you haven't seen directly. But, I could see, just talking to you right now, actually, I could feel your energy. It's a very powerful force, and I know we're cutting it close. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to talk about the places you've been, because you've been all over the world pretty much. And I know I heard you say that you love Kauai, but is that where you're most at home? Where are you most at home? Where do you feel the deepest connection?
I feel a pretty deep connection in Kauai and Maui, but also here in Portland. I would also say some other of my favorite places. I really enjoyed being in Egypt, the south of France. Australia has a really nice energy too, but I've been to some pretty amazing places. Those are definitely my favorite, but Kauai and Portland, those are definitely my homes. I navigate back and forth between here, where I am now in Portland, and Kauai, and that's just a place where I can really feel a clear lightness, a flow of energy, and a connectedness without the busyness of a big city and traffic and lots of people. And so, yeah, definitely Portland. And
Kauai.
Where
are you right now?
I'm in Portland.
Okay, Portland and Kauai, those two. Yeah, Portland, where you are right now. I thought you meant like there was a third place in there somehow. No, between Portland and Kauai. That makes sense. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So it's amazing. I know that. I was wondering also if there's anything you would like to add that I didn't ask. Anything you'd like to share that I didn't think of.
Actually, I'm pretty good. I think you asked a lot of things that probably people would be interested in knowing. I don't have much to add to that, except for I just like to encourage people to follow the truth within their own heart. I'm all for reading books, and I love going to, different workshops and gatherings and hearing other speakers and teachers. But I think at the end of the day, we really need to start listening to our own intuition a lot more. We need to trust ourselves, and that doesn't mean that not to ask advice from friends or for people that, are more experienced in things. But yeah, I think it's important. That's something I really encourage, And in other words, I tell people, I'm glad that I can be an inspiration, that you're inspired by some things that I do. But at the end of the day, listen to yourself, listen to your heart, go into meditation, be quiet, still your mind, and ask the teacher within you.
Oh, that was brilliant. That's a brilliant closing message. And I am just so grateful that I had a chance to talk to you, Bibi. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really wonderful.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and to be able to talk to you and share some of these some of our some of our spiritual, thoughts and ideas. It's great. So thank you so much for having me.
I love it. So, Bibi, how could people find you if they wanted to get some more information? I mean, actually, it's a pretty crazy question. How could people find you? Just put your name in. You're like everywhere. everywhere. But what are your websites, just for our listeners, so that they can learn more about your kale chips, learn more about your yoga practice, learn more about your tour schedule?
Sure. You can find me at BibiKaleChips.com. That's BIBIKALE Chips.com. You can also find out about my yoga teaching and my retreats at yogabibi.com. And if you want to find out more about what I'm doing musically or share in some of my a day in the life of Bibi, you can also find me on Facebook at Bibi McGill.
Bibi, before I close, I just want to tell you, people were really excited in our chat room that you loved Australia, by the way. Obviously, we have a bunch of people in Australia and people listening, and they loved it that you loved Australia, which is really cool. I'd love to visit. They also asked a quick question in the chat room that I just want to ask you. They said, who was your favorite teacher? Or who had the biggest impact on you that has really taught you, that has been a mentor in your life that you'd never forget?
Honestly, besides Jesus, I would say besides Jesus, and I do mean that.
I know.
I would say the Pleiadians. I mean, that's just really, the Pleiadians had a pretty big. And Cryon. Oh my gosh. And these
people are jumping for joy and you say that.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
To hear
Pleiadians
you say
and
that,
Cryon.
frankly. Oh, I'm excited. I'm jumping for joy with that answer right now.
Yeah.
Frankly.
I don't know where I'd be without Jesus, Cryon, and the Pleiadians. Seriously.
Me neither, actually. That's what's so awesome. I'm so excited that you said that. Oh, my God. Everybody, they're writing me, wow, Cryon. People are, like I said, you guys are leaving us on a really, really high note with that answer, okay? That was so awesome. So, thank you so much. So I guess we'll wind it up. I'd say thank you again for joining us, Bibi, and for the contact information and every little thing. So I just love talking to you.
Thanks so much, and thanks to your audience so much. Send so much love to you guys.
Right back at you. Gosh, it's a love fest here. I do want to thank all our listeners for tuning in to Embracing What's Real on In5D Radio. And I do want to say next Wednesday, August 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch me on sovereignmedia.net for a special benefit webinar for our Return to Atlantis conference. Our special guests are Teal Scott and Andrew Bartzis. Greg Prescott will be co-hosting with me, and we will be doing the show from Kauai, which will be awesome. Also, tune in at Kauai. We're going to also have a special show with Elijah and the Band of Light. Also, awesome. It seems like, Bibi, it was really cool because all of a sudden I'm going to Kauai and then had a string of guests that were closely connected to Kauai, and I didn't even know I was coming to Kauai at this particular time. It's just the way it all synchronistically laid out, with you being my guest a couple of days before I'm leaving for Kauai, and then Elijah turning out that I'm in Kauai, and that's when he's scheduled, and these other benefit shows that are happening in Kauai. So it's just like the nature of the way it goes. How about that?
Awesome. Well, maybe we'll have to meet up in Kauai if you're there when I'm there. We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. But for more information about upcoming programs, you can visit my website at insightsbyhelane.com. Till we meet again, remember, dream big, love big, and know You are a divine being, and anything and everything is possible. Namaste.